my name's Ashley Garcia, and this is my Module 4 discussion post. I will be looking down because I'm going to be reading a little bit off of my script that I wrote for this discussion. So I'm going to be answering questions 1, 2, and 5. The first question is, the authors argue that all identities are grounded in similarities and differences. Citing the text, explain what they mean. Do you agree or disagree? Why or why not? Provide examples from your own life to support your response. So the textbook states, though not always explicit in nature, self and other identification involves a process of constant comparison with other individuals and groups, and it is in the perceived similarities and differences that we were able to make sense of much of our lives. And this shows us that we make sense of the world around us by calculating the pros and cons, or in this case, our similarities and differences. We make decisions about our lives based on others' differences or our similarities. I definitely agree with this, and the reason I believe in it is because I recently had a question about teaching Islamic principles in class. There was this post on Facebook about a mother who was a Christian and refused to allow her son to participate in those questions. And so my Christian friend, when presented with that question, she said that she believes that our students shouldn't learn how to pray like them and shouldn't watch the videos. And she thinks if we can't talk about Jesus in schools, then we shouldn't be able to learn about their religions. Whereas my sister thinks that we should be able to present all ideas to our students or our children and allow them to decide on their own what they think. Weighing these differences, I've decided when my daughter is old enough to make her own decisions, I'll present her with all of the options, my opinions, and then have a mature discussion with her about her life choices. So these similarities and differences have allowed me to accurately formulate where I stood on the decision and see the different sides and why they may think of things a certain way. So I definitely agree with the statement made in the text. Question 2, explain avowed identity according to the text. Be sure to cite the material. What examples have you seen where people are challenged in regard to their avowed identity? Have you ever challenged anyone's identity or had your own identity challenged directly or indirectly? What makes an identity authentic? Some examples used in this chapter indicate that others discount another person's identity based on their communication. Do you think it's valid and why? So, according to the text, avowed identity is something that you do to adapt to your environment or situations. The text states on page 118 that we try to fit ourselves into our idea of what is allowed and expected of the identities we envision for ourselves. So an example of when someone was challenged in regards to their avowed identity is when my mom tried to take me when I was 8 years old, and she assumed the role of mother. My grandmother challenged her identity because she had not been in my life and was addicted to drugs and alcohol. Although she adapted to her situation, she was still challenged, and I was eventually returned to my grandmother by the police. I have not challenged anyone's identity, but my identity has been challenged, or at least I can't recall when I challenged somebody's identity. My identity was challenged. An example of this is when I moved in with an old friend of mine. We got into an argument. She stated that I was not a friend because I put my needs above hers, when in reality I was a friend. I just had to work that day and didn't come home during my shift when she called for help moving her dishwasher to replace it with another one. So what makes an identity authentic is the norms and results that are validated by your communication and actions. The textbook stated that communication can discount someone's identity, and I believe it's true and valid because we tend to put labels on people based off of the things that we see or hear, therefore discounting them before actually knowing what actions they have put into this identity. How has having multiple identities influenced your own life? Which of these identities has had the greatest impact? This is question number 5. On the privileges you see around you, how can the issue of privilege be recognized in productive rather than defensive ways? What changes can knowledge of intersectionality and privilege inspire? Excuse me. Not feeling very well today, hence the crazy hair. So having multiple identities has influenced my life greatly because I can do multiple things at once. For example, I'm a wife, mother, and a student all in one. The identity that has the greatest impact on privileges around me would be student, in my opinion. Through financial aid, I've been able to pay my classes, pay for my books, and even got a computer desk and a tablet for my schoolwork. I believe that recognized privilege in a productive way and not a defensive way, and the changes that knowledge of intersectionality and privilege inspire are those of great importance. The textbook states culture and identity are intimately related, and if we want to understand our own and others' cultures, we must have an understanding of what identities are important in a particular culture, how they're maintained, where and when they are salient, and why they are connected to all of our communication encounters. So therefore, when we recognize privilege and the fact that we're all in some way crossing the same roads at any given time, we recognize that we can change the way that we look at the world and the problems we're facing. For example, we recognize the needs of others, how our worldviews are unique, and how we can simply not argue about those things, but have a reasonable discussion instead of going out into basically all-out wars. So that's my discussion, and thank you, and have a great night.